Disturb.
Boom. And
There
we are
it
live
is.
for the Tuesday Phoenix Via at 2 o'clock with Luke and I. And today we have Templeton Walker.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do just a little quick background stuff. If anybody's paying attention, maybe you're not, I don't know. The 10-year dip to like 3.5. I just locked in an investment at 6.75 and had a buddy get a 30-year conventional for 5.75. So you got numbers in the fives, and then inventory spiked at that 21,400 mark as of yesterday. I didn't check today. We're at 19,100. Now that's not anybody rushing out and buying. It's just people canceling, taking their properties off the market for the holidays. Inventory obviously being low. Some of those houses are probably coming back on first of the year, but sitting at 19,000 actives going into January, and if mortgage rates stay in the fives, I mean, that's not a terrible scenario. I mean, especially since you're probably getting, what do you guys think, $50,000 to $75,000 discount over what you'd have paid in March?
Oh, yeah.
At least.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say 15% from where we were in March, maybe 20.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not getting, I mean, the retail buyer isn't getting the prices we're getting. Jack bought a Chandler today for $230.
Oh, wow. There we go.
So anyway, that's just a little update on the market. Lower inventory, mortgage rates for conventional financing are in the fives. If that stays the same coming into January, I could see, not that the market's going to fire back up, but I could see it normalizing anyway. So anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a period there. Temp, you know this as well. There's a period in Gilbert and Chandler where, I mean, aside from it being, if it was like a shack, you couldn't pick up anything for less than $400,000, like anything. It was nearly impossible for Gilbert Chandler area.
Yeah. Downtown Chandler, I flipped 1,000 square footer like in January, and I think we had multiple offers and it sold for $420. So $420 a square foot for like 1,000 square foot, 1960 build.
Yeah,
cute remodel, but nothing crazy. It was insane.
Oh, yeah.
So today we jumped on the call. I've been in the real estate space for 21 years, and I have considered myself an operator for 19 of those 21 years. And I started not being an operator when my son got out of college, and he decided to jump in the acquisition side, which I had done for 19 years up to that point. Whether it was a trustee sale or reaching out to guys like Luke and Temp and trying to buy their deals, or anybody else, kind of grooming agents up from zero to how to put offers on MLS.
Yeah.
And then doing the hard money thing, but I never like could say I was an owner of that business. I was the guy that generated all the business. So
right.
But I've been hanging around Temp for, what have we known each other? Probably 4 or 5 years, Temp.
Yeah, you taught me a lot, man. Like when I first figured out what wholesaling was in 2016, I would do deals with you, and I was like, yo, I don't know what this is. Like,
yeah. So, but since then, you've been able to, I want to say you have 5 or 6 businesses, right?
5 or 6 that make real money. Yeah, more, but 5 or 6 good ones.
I think Temp's got like 8 or 9 businesses.
Yeah, we'll just talk about the ones that make real money. How's that?
That's fair.
But then he's been able to, he would be what you would call an owner, because he's got, there's no way he can be an operator in 6 businesses. Let's use the number 6 in 6 businesses unless he was an owner, because you can't operate 6 businesses just as an owner. So, Temp, let's just go into that. And I mean, I've just told everybody I'm just the operator. You're the owner. So how did you make that leap? And then how has it impacted you as the market's changed? Have you had to jump back into being a little bit more of an operator as the market changed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just to give you an idea on the businesses. So I have the realtor, so like traditional agency, then the wholesale company, the flipping company, the title company, the plumbing company, and there's more companies, but they're all kind of vertically integrated. So what I realized is like if I create a lead, why can't that lead pay me 4 or 5 different ways? And then to your point of uh, I've really modeled your model, Chris, as far as the operator, like, hey, like be the attractor, bring in the deal flow. But I didn't really know how to do everything else. And one of my favorite books ever is called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. And the question is never how do you do something? It's always who. So you guys both know Miguel and Rod very closely, who are now partners on every company with me. They were the
congrats
who.
to them on that. That was this last week, right?
Yeah, man, because
Heck yeah.
they owned SoulPod with me, which was the flipping and wholesaling. But they're super ambitious, right? So like they're going to want to own a title company at some point. They're going to want to own plumbing. They're going to want to own we have other verticals that are getting launched, insurance and cabinets and all these things. But I don't know how to do all that, but I know who can do that. So Chris, to your point about like, how did I get out of the operator seat? I figured out that I'm really good at like 2% of the business, but it's very important. There's a ton of value in getting people to pay you money. Right. Now that you're willing to pay me money, how to go run a great business wasn't my skill set, but I was able to create enough revenue where talented people were willing to join my vision.
And you're good at putting the pieces in place to be able to get it to that level.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the book Traction, I would be like 100% visionary. Like I have no integrator. Like I'm not a great daily manager of people. I don't really give a shit how many phone calls you made today. It's like, no, are you excited about where you're running? Are you running hard? Are you running in the correct direction? Are you running with the right people? And then are you doing that in a profitable model? Like I'm sure you guys have done this before where you start a side hustle or you've done deals where you work really hard for no money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
So I've gotten really good at not doing that. Like if I'm going to spend my time on something, it's going to be a high leverage. Like I want to get paid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I'm also going to be humble enough to be like, I'm not very good at much, but I'm world class at like 2% of the equation. And I'm just going to do the 2%. And I'm not going to stick my nose in the other 98% that I suck at. So that's kind of how I was able to scale it, Chris, to your statement or question.
Nice. And then, so the second part of that question is like, obviously we've seen transitions in the wholesale market, the fix and flip market. Yeah. I would assume your title transactions, I'm not in the title business, so I don't know, but I would assume title transactions are down. Obviously refi transactions are gone.
Just a little bit.
So to the second part, Chris, I've had to jump back in. So I had 2 new daughters the last 2 years. We wanted to have one last little girl, my 4th child, and we got her, blessed by God. And then we accidentally got pregnant again right away. So I had 2 daughters within 1 year, which was insane. But the market was so frothy and I had set everything up so well. We were printing money. Like I would run Monday and I didn't work the rest of the week. So I'd work 6-7 hours a week, maybe some phone calls or some check-ins, but I didn't work for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And that's a testament to Miguel and Rod because they were handling business, they were in. Right. We were crushing and I was out of the business, but I will never forget. I was sitting in La Jolla. I had an Airbnb on top of the hill there overlooking the ocean. And I kind of sat up and I was like, hun, this is about to get bad. I was talking to my wife. I was like, this is about to get bad. I was like, I have too much exposure. I have too many deals out there. I have way too much capital out and these rates aren't going down. Like this is about to get bad. So it was that moment I came back and I've probably worked harder than I ever have in the last 6 months to make sure that I mitigated the exposure that I had because, I flip premium luxury and Chris, we have our flip together over in Lawrence. And I had a lot of deals like that though. I had 20 flips out there for almost $30 million. And I've gotten out of almost all of it, right? And there's only a few left, and I still think that we'll do well. But
Chris, are you losing Tim?
A leader
Yeah.
leads from the front. What's that?
We're
guys
losing
losing
you a
me?
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, we're losing you a little bit, but
Can you guys hear me? My bad. I don't know.
yeah, it's just jumbled.
Maybe it's this. Oh man, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you better.
What was the last thing you heard?
Kind of just the you're doing your big flips and
Yeah.
and you got out of most of them, and then
Got out of
You got a
most
couple-
of
you
them.
got- you
I
got a
guess
couple
what
left.
the main point I'd want to say, guys, is like a leader leads from the front. And the moment that I saw shit getting bad, I got back in and I was like, hey guys,
Yep.
follow me. I'm in this with you. And I didn't just a business isn't some passive endeavor that always just works. It takes tweaking.
Right.
And so I've been leading from the front, man, and we've been crushing, and it's actually been fun, like innovating and creating revenue again, spinning up new companies, and navigating the waters has been a good time.
I think a big thing on that, Temp, is obviously, like you're saying, Chris, I think that when you talk about like when you think of just owner, right? Like, Jake and I own Viking Real Estate, our business. But like something I feel like I've realized is that in general, the business, just for me at least, it works so much better when I'm in the everyday, obviously, because I feel like your guys work harder when you're there. Your guys, when you're in the trenches with them every single day as well. And again, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong, way to doing it, but just saying that like when we're in here in the office, in the trenches every day with the guys, I feel like there's just a different energy, right? Like the guys get more excited. They're happier to be doing the things that they're doing. And then, a big part of why I tend to stay in the office every single day and doing everything is I like to kind of have a really good pulse of like what's going on with the calls, right? Whether it's with the calls, if it's with the sellers, the buyers, the construction team. So it's like, and again, I think that's something that we need to get better at, is obviously putting people in places to where they can kind of have that pulse. And Temp, that's obviously something that you have done a great job at. That's something when we're going to be hiring a project manager for our projects here in the near future. But again, something that I like about being in here every day, and again, even though we are an owner, it still hits the other side, the operator side. But again, I feel like when they come to me with questions of like, hey, what would you say in this situation? Like, are you getting this when you're on the phones, or is this a problem that you're having? It's easier for me to be able to be like, yes, this is why I'm saying this. This is what you guys need to do, because I'm dealing with the same stuff when I'm seeing it every day right now as well. You know what I mean? So it's like that's kind of something that we've taken from that as well.
So what Temp has been able to do though is basically partner with a guy like you, Luke.
Yeah.
That's in the office. That's probably Mike Miguel and his wholesale business, and he's got somebody in there, got the pulse of it, working it every day, and Temp's going to take that and do that. And I would the guy who
Temp, are you losing Chris now?
Yeah, Chris.
We're losing you now.
I heard everything until you said, and then Temp's the wholesale part, and then you said, but Temp's done that, and then we lost you.
Yeah, so you've basically, I would assume that Miguel's kind of your guy, like on the that Luke is kind of like Luke. He's in the office, he's managing the acquisitions, he's doing all that, but Miguel's probably not your plumbing guy, right? So you've probably found a really good guy that knows the plumbing business, and that's kind of like Miguel on the wholesale side and is running the plumbing business, right?
Right.
That's exactly correct. And then what I've done to elevate, because really I'm starting to see myself as a family office, and I've realized as much as I love buying rental properties, it's a slow game to build wealth, and it's a game I'm always going to play. But I know how to get companies to 50,000 a month in revenue, and how to keep 50 to 60% of that. So if I can go spin up another vertical and go make 25 to 30,000 a month in net income, why am I not spending my time on that as opposed to one rental at a time? So, but to do that, I had to have really good business framework. So Miguel and Rod are now the CEO and COO of the parent company, and they have equity. They're my partners in that company. So they're tied in with me. They're incentivized appropriately,
Right.
but they go support my plumbing partner. So before I had to support the plumbing partner, the title partner, the cabinet partner, the insurance partner, where now Miguel and Rod, they were so good and so valuable in the wholesale piece. They still sit in those seats as the CEO and COO of that company, but they actually sit in the parent company seat because I would like to get that to 20 million a year in revenue, where I have about 10 of the companies I think can do about 2 million a year in revenue. Or there's a different model where we have more companies with less revenue. You could do 20 companies at a million. Which once you start look like you guys, plumbing like prints money. Like I didn't even realize. I thought a lot of people called me for real estate. Fucking people are calling me for plumbing.
Well,
So
Everyone's got issues. You always will.
Like real estate has a recession, right?
what's that?
I said plumbing doesn't have a recession like real estate has a recession, right?
And then, and Chris, I've learned to be very particular about what we do. Like we don't go fix leaky faucets. We go clear lines. If we can clear your line and fix it right then, great. Or we're going to find a big problem and we're going to be able to go fix $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 problems when people have like a heavy issue, as opposed to running around trying to fix your shower. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Right.
clearing that snake in that line or whatever, and realizing then, oh, that line's collapsed or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't tell you how many friends. I can't tell you how many friends have called me now and they had a bid for 16 grand. And because that's all I do and I don't have a service arm, I can go do that line for 12 grand, save them $4,000 and still keep really high margin in my business. So, And now when I look at that, I always say, can Templeton and my social influence, can I drive enough revenue for this to work? And do I have assets that could, like I just had a house in Tempe. I had a $60,000 bid for plumbing and my own company did it for 38,000.
Right.
So I
save you 22,000 right there.
Company, but I also made 20,000 in profit in the plumbing company off my own house. So I always say, can Templeton drive enough revenue for this company to survive? And then if my friends Chris and Luke call me and be like, because they want to support my business, hey Temp, we got a plumbing issue. Can you help us? Great. And now my word of mouth, I only need to do 6 to 8 jobs a month, you guys, for that company to go do 80 a month, which is $1 million company.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's,
for sure.
I think I've done that really well, is I'm not smart enough to make things too complicated.
So that's so leading into the next question is, when you partners with guys like Miguel, like what's the strategy? Because like, obviously you can have 2 different strategies. You can be like, I'm going to teach this guy. And this has been the biggest problem in we all know this as wholesalers, right? If you teach somebody, like they're going to become your competitor.
Right.
So you gotta teach them and keep them incentivized, but then try to keep them on the team long term. Because I don't think any of us don't have a story where we taught somebody that didn't just try to become our competitor, right?
There's such a high turnover in this industry. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think that, the majority of people that want to get into real estate, that get into, especially flipping and wholesaling, you'd have to say that they'd almost be lying if they were to say that they don't have an intent of wanting to do stuff like that on their own at some point.
Yeah.
So, I think that there just comes a time frame where it's like, okay, something like that is going to come up. But I think a lot of it comes down to in that interview process. If you're hiring people on your team, you got to ask the right questions. So
Chris, for me, Miguel went to Steve Trang and him and Rod worked for Trang for a year.
Okay.
And learned the business really well because Steve is awesome at teaching that.
Oh yeah.
But I think where he was short-sighted was he employed them. And as their star rose, I partnered with them, and you can't do that with everyone, right? Not everyone's the right partner, but when you do see, when you have that gut feeling and the core values align and the work ethic aligns with, Miguel and Rod are my brothers, right? Like they're my brothers.
How long have you known them for, Tim?
3 years now. And we've been
Okay.
officially in business for 2 years. Last year alone, in our first year in business, you guys, we did 248 wholesale transactions. We built a 30 house portfolio. We own 30 doors together. And we fixed and flipped probably another 25 to 30 homes together. So it was like
Right.
chaos. It was like a beautiful
For sure.
mess. We failed forward and found ourselves in a really good spot. But I couldn't have done that without them. And where I was headed with that Steve Trey point, though, is like, that's my guy. Like, I love him. He builds great business. But he's going to have to keep rehiring, like, that talent. Where, you know, guys, the last 2 years, I was out of the business and still making 6 figures a month in wholesale net to me.
Right, right.
And I wasn't working, you know, but you also have to be aligned on the value proposition. I was like, hey guys, I have this brand or influence. Like, I'm pretty, I guess you'd call it well-known in town, at least, for being an investor. So I was like, hey guys, I get a ton of deal flow. I really don't want to comp and sell and do all that anymore. If you guys are willing to do the work, I think I can bring the wave and we might have something special here. And then it just grew from there. And then we just aligned on what because if you have two people looking to do what you do, like Chris, like two deal junkies, like me and you are deal junkies, right? But we're not very good at the integration. If you and I decided to partner together, Chris, it would probably be lucrative, but it would be so messy.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
So that's why I was always a operator, because I'm a deal junkie, but I was just doing my own, like, just kept doing my own deals, but I could only I could only expand as much as I could do, right?
Chris, I remember we'd back in the day, I'd send you deals, and I remember you'd be like, okay, give me 5 minutes, hold on. And you'd run away to the coffee shop or whatever it was, and I'd be like, okay, do you think you'd take this at 250? And you're like, I'll take it at 235. And you'd be able to say it within 3 to 4 minutes, which was hilarious. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. I remember, you know, you were definitely always, you know, very in the business, which I always love that about you too, though. Obviously, just because I always like, you know, just being able to work with you. Which again, you've replaced yourself with Jack, and I mean, obviously, we love Jack too.
Well, and Jack's a dude. Jack has that rare thing that you have, right? Obviously, being your son, Chris, like he's the best at what he does. So it's rare to find someone that can replace that. But I do want people to understand that, like, scaling and doing everything I've done doesn't have to be the way. Like, I look at the big benefit to the way you did it, Chris, is it's highly profitable. If you're willing to comp and you understand deals and you're willing to kind of play, you know, sling them and wholesale them, and you go do 5 to 10 of those a month, you can make millions of dollars a year with fucking no expense, maybe an assistant. So I don't want, like, that's not a bad model. Like I have a lot of people that I'm responsible for. And there was a time, you guys, I made $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a year with like a $40,000 assistant. Granted, I was doing all the work and I was comping and selling and I was on the internet saying, send me your deals, but I'm still doing that. So, like, I don't know that the operator model is the wrong way. I think you just have to be true to what you want to build.
For sure. I think that's a great point. Cause obviously, like you said, you've got 5 kids. You know, you want to be at home with the kids and the family. Where there's some people out there where, you know, they don't have kids, they're not married, they're just a bachelor or whatever. And you know, the most important thing to them right now might be just grinding. You know what I mean? Getting that and just getting after it 70 hours a week. I think that there's obviously just such a difference of you know, of what people want. So that's why it's extremely important, like you said. Figure out what it is exactly that you want. If it is that you want to build something, then get out of the business, then obviously that's a perfect model. If it is something that you want to sit in there and grind every day, then obviously there's multiple routes you can go with what we do.
You know what I would do if I didn't have all the obligations of all my kids and my life? I would go find someone like Chris and be like, yo, I literally want to duplicate what you've done. Go figure out how to do a 20-pounder once a week. That's 80 a month. That's $1 million a year. Find a who that can do all the paperwork. So that's an assistant, or just be like, hey, Chris, can I plug in with you, man? And like negotiate
transaction coordinator.
And now every dollar I make, I keep. And then with those dollars, create some financial principles personally that you know how to invest and save. you could be done in 3 to 5 years. And then I think what happens is you fall in love with the game and you never fucking stop. Like, I don't think I will accidentally buy 20 houses a year probably for the rest of my life because it's just what I do.
Because it's fun. You enjoy it.
But that's what I would do. I'd be like, Chris, show me the model. I'll give you half. Like, that's what I did with you, Chris, right? We would split every deal 50-50. And I'd be like,
Yep.
hey, I don't really know what I have. Can you solve the problem? And
Right.
we probably did 24 deals together until I kind of figured out what I was doing. And then, I was able to figure out my next step. But there's a model out there, you guys, where you do one deal a week, make it a 10 to 20 pounder. You make $500,000 to $1 million a year, leverage out the paperwork, stay in your zone of genius, and fucking live a good life. Like, that's a dope model to me.
Absolutely. The toughest thing for people is figuring out how to get that deal a month or that deal a week. I mean, that's the toughest thing for everyone right now. I mean, I think, obviously we were all in that position 6 months ago, 9 months ago, where that was coming regularly. Where obviously everything shifted. That's what we were talking about earlier on the phone. Everything shifted, and now it's more so of figuring out, okay, how do I get that deal a week? How do I get that deal a month? How do you stay in the business of just staying in business? How do you continue getting deals right now? So that's where it's tough, I think, for everyone, is because certain marketing's ways that were working before aren't working anymore. So you're having to get creative. That's what you're seeing everyone do right now. Everyone is getting creative. Everyone is like, okay, man, like, I don't want to spend $20,000 a month in marketing anymore. I don't want to spend $5,000. I don't want to spend, and I know there's people out there also that don't spend any money in marketing. But still, just because the deals have gotten so much more difficult to come by, that's where I think that you're just seeing a lot more people having to get creative, and it's been difficult.
I have the way, I think I have the way for someone trying to figure it out.
I want to hear it.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I always teach like I just did a 3-day course, and I kind of just told everybody, like, you can't be the one trick pony. Like, if you get a lead that comes in, you need to know how to monetize that lead, whether you list it, you can turn it into a subject to,
right?
Where you can turn it into a novation, where you can turn it into a wholesale deal. But no matter what, when that lead comes in, you need to know how to figure it out.
Yeah, you got to have multiple exit strategies on it.
Yeah, because the leads are slimmer, so you need to monetize as many as you can. So
to piggyback on that point, that's 100% correct. Is you got to have all the tools in your tool belt, and then you got to be really good at understanding what's the best option for the client. Like, if it's to list, then go list it. Like, but have that available. I think the number one thing most people are lacking is they don't have the weight or the confidence behind them to actually perform on what they're selling. And what I mean by that is, when I was first started, and what I would do to this day, is you got to go get hooked up to a bigger boat and be like, hey, what are you willing to commit at? And I'm going to bring you every deal. I need you to be my backstop. I need you to be like my, hey, because the way I was able to compete with a lot of the guys who had been here before me is I did guaranteed pricing. So, hey, I'll wholesale the deal. But if I give you a price of $250 and I can't wholesale it, everyone knew I was going to buy that house. I was not going to back out on it. And the reason why I was able to do that is because I went to a bigger fish and said, hey, if I ever need to close same day, I'll give you 50% of the profit, even after all the work. So I was willing to play a far-sighted game to give myself the stability. Because, dude, I would actually buy the house. So after I did that 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, people were like, yo, Temp might not pay me as much, but it's done.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly what Chris used to do. Exactly with us. Like to the T. I remember no matter what, you'd be like, all right, listen, I'm going to try to wholesale it. If I can't move it, I'll still take it at this number. Like, okay, you'll take it no matter what. I'll take it no matter what. And so it's like, that was one of those things that definitely set you. Yeah. It sets you apart, from when you're trying to sell deals to other people, where you're like, this guy says he'll take it at that, but like, he has also canceled on us a couple of times. Where if Chris is saying he's going to take it, he's going to close on it with his own hard money company, So
And in a
Big.
scary market like this, that's so important. So I'm still doing that. I'm giving guaranteed pricing. So like people know, because dude, I can't tell you the horror stories of people getting walked out on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have relationships like with Chris and with Jack. Like we collaborate on, we were doing probably 15 deals a month together, Chris, Jack and Miguel, right? Like those two.
Yeah.
And we would just be like, we would text each other like, hey, want to split the risk on this? So we would cross collateralize and be like, hey, we'll take this down together. And the reality is we got burnt on a few. Chris, your partner, Tim, who, you know, we're all super close. He sent an email to me 3 weeks ago saying, hey, you need to send a wire for 34 grand. We lost like fucking 70 G's on a house. But guess what? We split the risk and we were able to mitigate that loss and share it together. But we've won so much together that it's like, okay, we lost some money, but we've made millions of dollars together the last couple of years. And we went further together than we could apart. And I think that's what's been special about what we've been able to do, Chris, if you'd agree.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, obviously that house I think was going to a fund, and when the fund stopped buying,
Yeah.
But we closed it. That's the point I'm trying to make. We bought it. So whoever sold it to us got paid.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we were big boys and we took it on the chin. But yeah, dude, we had a day with the funds. We had 8 deals fall out and we had got funded 4 of them that were like at the wrong valuation because the fund was paying too much. So we got stuck with 4. We lost about $300,000 of revenue in one day and $50,000 of actual earnest money. So it was a $300,000 day. It was not fun.
Yeah, mine was about 500, but that's about it.
It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man. Well, hey, that's
I think the biggest, you want to know the biggest lesson I learned this last little bit is how unaware I was of how special the interest rates were. Like, and I've done a good job collecting assets. I have a lot of rentals, but if you could give me,
no joke,
if you could give me a second chance to go back and stabilize the thousands of homes that have passed through my hands on 2% and 3% interest.
Yep.
And I did do it. I built a nice portfolio, but dude, I tricked the bag on that. Like I left millions on the table because I was making 10, 15 grand. Oh, I'm so smart. I just clipped 10 grand in a week, 20 grand. and I could have stabilized an asset on 2.5% debt.
Exactly.
Like, oh.
And he could have cashed out and pulled all your equity out of the property. Oh man, there's
a non-taxable event.
Yeah, so many properties that Jake and I had that same conversation on. We're like, man, like what were we doing? Like, because exactly like you said, it rose so quick too. That was the thing. Like, you know, when it was at that 2.5, 3, whatever, you know, you heard everyone talking like, oh man, these are so low. And then, you know, 1 month later it's at 4. 1 month later it's at 5. 1 month
you don't
later
know
it's
what you
at
have
6.
till
1
it's
month
gone.
later it's at 7.
You don't know what you have till it's gone.
Yeah, and then people are like, oh yeah, I think we're at like 7.5. And then when you actually, well, this is what it comes down to. I think it's when you actually are putting the numbers in, right? When you're actually breaking it down and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that meant, like, I realized it, but I didn't really actually put the time into actually, you know, figure it out. To where it's like, wait, my payment, you know, whatever, my payment would have been $1,400, but now at this interest rate, it's $2,700. And it's like, that's no longer a deal. It's not even close to a deal anymore. Where it's like exactly what you're saying. It shows you just how important the interest rates are, which same thing. We absolutely dropped the ball on that as well.
So you guys don't want me to build you the mortgage calculator based on inflation over a 30-year span and tell you actually how much that you would have actually paid for that.
Please do.
Don't even show me, Chris.
Oh man.
Don't even show me.
It's bad. It's bad. But you live and you learn. That's the thing. That's the thing that we talk about so often though, is that like you know, it's we all obviously we're good at what we do. We probably think we're even better than we actually are at what we actually do. But it's like there's so much to learn still. And you know, we've been in this, I've been doing this for 8 years now, and 8 years in, and you learn so much. You learn so much every single day. Like if you keep your eyes open, you know, just from experiences, you'll learn so much. That's a huge learning point that you were talking about, Tam. Like think about that. For someone that's been in the industry for 8 years, you would think that I would have some idea of that. You would think that I'd have a better grasp of like what's going to potentially happen with interest rates rising. But exactly that. It can cripple you. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Agreed.
Well, we're at 34 minutes, and we just like to jump on here every Tuesday and have a conversation with people and just, chat about different stuff in the market. So if you have any suggestions about who you'd like us to chat with next,
Heck yeah.
Send us some, or if anybody wants to jump on with us, let us know. And but Temp, we appreciate you jumping on. And
For sure, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
And
you,
we
fellas.
Always a blast.
And if Jack doesn't treat you guys good, then just send me a text message.
We're gonna let you know.
No, Jack's great. I appreciate you, fellas.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Temp. Appreciate
Thanks
you being
for
on
jumping
here
on.
with us.
Later.
Later.